The chamber of the Galactic Council was a place built to humble all who entered. Its ceiling rose higher than any cathedral on Earth, filled with glowing panels and lines of light that looked like endless stars trapped inside walls of metal. Delegates from hundreds of alien species sat in curved rows, their faces hidden in shadow, their eyes fixed on the lone figure who stood in the center of the hall. That lone figure was the human Envoy. He wore no armor, no crown, no weapon. He carried only a plain black uniform with the emblem of Earth stitched on his chest. His steps echoed across the polished floor as he walked forward, alone and surrounded. Every alien eye followed him, some full of curiosity, others with hatred. To them, he was not just a man. He was the voice of an entire world that had dared to rise too quickly among the stars. The Envoy stopped at the center of the chamber, where the Council's long table stretched in a perfect circle. Behind that table sat the ruling voices of the galaxy, creatures who had ruled for centuries. Their skin glimmered with scales, feathers, or metallic sheen. Their voices, when they spoke, carried a weight that silenced even the boldest. And now they turned that weight against humanity. One of the Council leaders rose. Its tall, slender form bent forward, its voice sharp and cold. "You humans speak too often of pride. You claim equality where there is none. You demand respect you have not earned. Your species is reckless. Your presence is dangerous. You do not belong here." The Envoy lifted his head. His face showed no fear. His voice was calm, but every word was clear, steady, and sharp. "Humanity does not ask for permission to exist. We came here in peace. We joined this council to be heard, not to be silenced. If you fear us, it is because you know what we can become. But we will not bow," murmurs filled the chamber. Some alien delegates hissed in anger, others whispered nervously. The Envoy's words carried defiance, but also truth. He stood tall, even as hundreds of powerful beings glared down at him. Another council leader struck the table with a heavy hand. Its voice roared across the hall. "Enough! Humanity's Envoy speaks of threats, not peace. This species cannot be trusted. Their arrogance is a disease and it spreads. Today we end it." The Envoy's eyes narrowed. He knew what was coming. He had always known this day might arrive. Yet he did not step back. He did not plead. He stood as a soldier stands before the storm, proud and unbroken. "If you kill me here, you will not silence Earth," he said. "You will awaken it. And when you do, you will learn what humanity truly is." For a brief moment, the chamber was silent. The delegates shifted in unease. Some looked at one another, as if weighing the cost of such a decision. But the Council's ruling voice had already chosen. Guards in black armor stepped forward. They carried long energy blades that glowed faintly. They moved in perfect order, surrounding the human Envoy. The chamber's air grew heavy, filled with a sense of finality. The Envoy looked at them, then at the Council, and finally lifted his eyes upward to the glowing ceiling that looked like a false sky. In his mind he saw Earth, the oceans, the mountains, the cities filled with life. He thought of the people who had sent him here, trusting him to speak for them. He thought of the children who had never seen the stars, waiting for a future where humanity stood tall among the galaxy. He knew he would never see them again. Yet he also knew his death would not be the end. It would be the spark. The guards raised their weapons. The chamber lights dimmed slightly, as if the very walls could feel what was about to happen. The first strike came, swift and final. The human Envoy fell to his knees. His blood spread across the polished floor, dark and shining under the artificial light. His voice, weak but unbroken, whispered into the silence. "Humanity will remember." Those were his last words. For several long seconds, no one spoke. Even the Council itself seemed shaken. The silence was heavy, pressing down on everyone present. Then the ruling voice rose once again, cold and commanding. "Let it be known," it declared, "that the human Envoy was executed for crimes of arrogance and defiance. Let it be known that Earth is forbidden to challenge this council again." But in the shadows of that grand chamber, not all were convinced. Some delegates looked at one another with doubt. They had seen the Envoy's eyes, heard the weight in his final words. They wondered if the council had just made a mistake far greater than the one they had tried to prevent. Outside the chamber, whispers spread through corridors and across starships waiting in orbit. Messages carried news faster than the Council could control. The Envoy was dead. Earth's voice had been silenced, but in death his warning remained. Humanity would remember. And when humanity remembers, it does not forget. The Council believed they had ended a threat. In truth, they had just awakened one. The Envoy's final mission was complete, not by peace, not by victory, but by sacrifice. His silence would echo louder than his voice ever could. And somewhere, across the stars, Earth was already listening. On Earth, the night sky looked the same as always. Stars glittered like quiet candles, far away and unreachable. Most people went about their lives, never knowing what had happened light years away in the Council's chamber. They laughed, worked, dreamed, and slept, while above them a storm was already moving toward their world. It began with a whisper. The first signals came through hidden channels, intercepted by human listening stations that never slept. A technician in a dark control room stared at the screen as a foreign transmission replayed again and again. His hands shook when he realized what the message contained. The human envoy, Earth's voice among the stars, was gone, executed. Within minutes, the message reached command centers buried deep beneath mountains and oceans. Generals, ministers, and analysts stared at the cold evidence. There was no doubt. The Council had done it. They had not just rejected Earth's voice. They had killed it. Anger spread like fire through the networks of power. In a secret conference room, the leaders of Earth gathered. They were not kings or emperors, but presidents, prime ministers, commanders, and directors who spoke for billions. They sat in silence at first, their faces heavy with shock. No one wanted to be the first to speak, but they all understood the truth. The world had changed. Finally, an older woman with sharp eyes and a voice of iron broke the silence. She leaned forward and said, "They executed our envoy. They killed a man who carried our flag. That is not just an insult. That is war." Her words cut through the air like a blade. Some leaders shifted uncomfortably. A few argued for caution, speaking of restraint, of waiting for proof, of sending more diplomats. But others shook their heads. The proof was already written in blood. Then the defense commander stood. His uniform was plain, but his voice carried the weight of steel. "We built something for this day. We hoped never to use it. But the Council has left us no choice. They have chosen the path. Now humanity must walk it." The room fell silent again. Everyone knew what he meant. For years, Earth had lived with the shadow of fear, always aware that the older races looked at them with suspicion. Humanity was young, fast, and unpredictable. To protect themselves, Earth had hidden something buried deep in bunkers, hidden in shipyards, stored in codes known only to a few. It had a name whispered only in the darkest meetings: the Annihilation Protocol. A man at the table spoke, his voice quiet but steady. "If we begin this, there is no turning back. The galaxy will know us not as diplomats, not as partners, but as a force of destruction." The commander's eyes burned with controlled fury. "Then let them know. They wanted to silence us. Now we will speak in a language they cannot ignore." At that moment, the decision was made. Messages flew across continents. Secret vaults unlocked. Factories that had been silent for decades roared back to life. Engineers and soldiers received codes they had trained for, but never thought they would use. The world was waking, not in fear, but in fury. Outside of government walls, ordinary people soon learned the truth. News spread through broadcasts, through whispers, through images leaked from the stars. The footage of the envoy's execution burned itself into every screen. Families wept, strangers clenched their fists. Across the world, grief became anger, and anger became unity. For once, the divisions of Earth seemed to fade. Old rivals stood shoulder to shoulder. Nations that had fought bitter wars now prepared to fight together. Humanity had been humiliated, but it would not remain so. In the darkness of space, ships moved. Fleets that had once guarded the solar system repositioned. Hidden stations came alive with lights. Satellites that had slept for years blinked awake and turned their eyes outward. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Council received reports from their spies. They laughed. They mocked. To them, humanity was still a young species with fragile bones and loud voices. "They will rage," one alien said in the chamber, "but they will break. Their anger will burn fast and die." But in the hidden bases of Earth, the truth was different. Humanity did not burn fast. Humanity burned deep. Every insult carved itself into memory. Every wound became a reason to rise higher. In a command bunker beneath the surface of the moon, the defense commander entered a long code into a console. The lights dimmed, then glowed red. A cold mechanical voice spoke from the walls. "Annihilation Protocol activated." The words echoed through the chamber. Officers froze. Some looked pale. Others clenched their jaws with grim resolve. They all knew what those words meant. It was no longer about survival. It was about message, about power, about proving to the galaxy that humanity was not prey. The activation sent ripples across the solar system. Hidden shipyards began assembling massive warships whose blueprints had been locked for years. Engines the size of mountains ignited. Weapons never seen before in battle were pulled from vaults and loaded onto carriers. The air of secrecy vanished. The Annihilation Protocol was no longer a plan. It was a reality. From Earth's orbit to the farthest colonies, soldiers prepared. Civilians braced themselves. But in every heart there was the same thought: the Envoy's death would not be in vain. Humanity would answer. Humanity would rise. In the great silence of space, a storm was building, and for the first time, the galaxy would learn what it meant when Earth was betrayed. The galaxy had always laughed at Earth. Humanity was quick to learn, yes, but still young in the eyes of the ancient powers. The Council believed that Earth's rage would fade, that their threats would dissolve into silence. But as days passed, strange reports began to reach them. At first, it was only whispers. A Council patrol near the edge of human space vanished without trace. Their last transmission was a burst of static, cut off mid-sentence. Another outpost reported sensors detecting enormous energy spikes around the solar system, readings so strong that they overloaded instruments. Most Council members dismissed it as exaggeration or malfunction, but some began to worry. Far away, deep within the shipyards of Earth, the truth was taking shape. Massive docks hidden under oceans and carved inside asteroids roared with activity. Engines larger than skyscrapers burned with blue fire. Hulls of dark metal, built to absorb light, stretched longer than cities. Each ship was a fortress, each fortress a weapon. For decades, humanity had studied the Council's fleets. They had seen how the great alien empires fought their wars, slow, heavy, ritualistic battles of honor and tradition. Earth had chosen a different path. Humans built ships not to impress, not to honor, but to win. And now they were ready to show them. In orbit above the moon, the first of Earth's new warships emerged from its cradle. It moved like a shadow, a giant of black steel, silent and terrifying. Its name glowed faintly across the side, Vanguard of Silence. In the control rooms, generals watched with steady eyes. Engineers cheered softly, their pride burning behind their calm. Soldiers saluted as the ship passed overhead. It was not just a weapon. It was a promise, but the Vanguard was only the beginning. Across the system, more ships came alive. Iron Dawn, Ashbreaker, Soul's Wrath, each name carried weight, chosen not for beauty but for fear. The Council's spies soon delivered images. The recording showed fleets assembling in the dark of space. Alien eyes widened at the sight. These were not small defense ships. These were predators. Each vessel bristled with weapons, whose designs were unfamiliar, whose power could only be guessed. Some weapons shone with strange blue cores. Others carried arrays of missiles the size of towers. The Council gathered once again in their chamber. The air was tense. Holograms of Earth's new fleet floated above the table. The delegates argued loudly, their voices rising in fear and disbelief. "They cannot build this so fast," one alien leader shouted. "They are bluffing." "These images must be false," another said. But others shook their heads. "No, I have seen their transmissions. I have read the reports. This is real." Humanity has been preparing for this day. The Council's ruling voice tried to calm them. Even if their ships are strong, they are still few. They cannot match the united fleets of the Council. We will crush them before they spread further. But as the debate raged, more news arrived, news that silenced even the most arrogant. The Council's border fleets were vanishing. Patrol ships sent to watch human space were destroyed within minutes. Survivors reported attacks that moved faster than anything they had seen. Beams of energy tore through shields as if they were paper. Missiles moved with intelligence, chasing ships across light years. Entire squadrons were erased before they could fire a shot. The delegates grew pale. Fear spread. If Earth could do this to patrol fleets, what could they do to the core worlds? Back on Earth, the people watched with quiet pride. They had been underestimated for so long that it almost seemed unreal. For years, they had hidden their strength, building in secret, preparing for the day when diplomacy would fail. Now that day had come. In a hidden control chamber beneath the ice of Antarctica, the defense commander studied the reports. His face was calm, but his eyes carried the weight of fire. "The galaxy will no longer laugh," he said softly. "They will listen." At his command, the next stage of the Annihilation Protocol began. Signals spread through encrypted channels. Fleets moved into new positions. Drones awoke from long sleep and spread across the stars like a silent swarm. Humanity had learned one lesson from history. Victory was not about strength alone. It was about speed, about will, about never giving the enemy time to breathe. The Council fought by rules. Humanity fought to survive, and survival made them ruthless. Across alien worlds, fear turned into panic. Rumors spread faster than truth. Some claimed Earth had built weapons that could shatter planets. Others whispered of machines that could turn suns dark. Whether true or not, the fear itself was enough. In the chambers of the Council, the ruling voice shouted, "They are reckless. They are dangerous. We must destroy them before they spread further." But deep down, many knew the truth. Humanity was no longer a newcomer. Humanity was no longer asking to be heard. They were taking their place by force. The Envoy's final words still echoed in the minds of many who had witnessed his death. Humanity will remember. And now, as fleets of black steel spread across the stars, the galaxy understood what that meant. The Council had executed one man, but in doing so, they had awakened billions. Earth had shown its arsenal. And this was only the beginning. The Galactic Council could not believe what they were hearing. Reports from the borders came one after another, each more alarming than the last. Patrol fleets erased in minutes. Outposts silenced without distress calls. Human warships moving like shadows, striking with precision, then vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. In the Council chamber, chaos reigned. Delegates shouted, demanded action, accused each other of weakness. Pride still lingered, but fear had begun to eat at them. The ruling voice slammed a hand against the table and declared, "Enough! We will show these humans the true power of the Council. We will send a fleet they cannot resist." And so it was done. A vast armada was gathered. Ships from dozens of species, some so old their hulls carried scars from ancient wars. It was said to be the largest force assembled in a century. Tens of thousands of vessels, each glowing with energy, each carrying weapons designed to crush rebellion. The Council was certain that such a display would end the human threat before it grew further. The fleet entered human space with banners raised and weapons armed. Their commanders sent a final message to Earth: surrender or be destroyed. On Earth, no one surrendered. Instead, silence answered the Council's demand. And in that silence, humanity moved. From the black depths of the solar system, the first human fleets rose. They did not look like the shining vessels of the Council. They looked like predators, dark, sharp, designed for war and nothing else. They advanced without hesitation, without fear. The two armadas faced each other in the void. For a moment it was calm. Stars burned quietly between them, as if holding their breath. Then the first shot was fired. It was not a warning shot. It was annihilation. A beam of pure energy, brighter than the sun, cut through the Council's front line. Shields collapsed in an instant. Ships shattered into fragments, their wreckage spinning silently into space. The Council fleet returned fire, thousands of blasts tearing into the void. But the human ships moved faster than anyone expected. They weaved through the storm of fire, striking back with precision. Missiles launched from Earth's warships broke apart into swarms of smaller weapons, each guided by intelligence. They chased their targets relentlessly, piercing shields, burrowing into hulls, and exploding from within. Giant alien dreadnoughts that had ruled battles for centuries fell in minutes. The Council commanders shouted orders, but panic spread. The enemy was not fighting like the old wars. The humans did not fight for honor or tradition. They fought to win. Every move was ruthless, every strike calculated to break the Council's power as quickly as possible. From the bridge of the flagship Vanguard of Silence, the defense commander watched the battle unfold. His face was calm, but his words carried iron. "No retreat," he said. No hesitation. "Show them what happens when they kill our voice." The humans obeyed. Waves of drones poured from hidden launch bays, filling the void like a storm of steel. They tore into Council formations, cutting them apart ship by ship. Massive human carriers unleashed weapons no alien had ever seen before. Graviton bombs that bent space itself, tearing fleets into pieces. Within hours, the Council's mighty armada was broken. Ships fled in every direction, their formations shattered. Entire species saw their proudest warships reduced to debris. The void glowed with the fire of thousands of explosions, each one marking the fall of centuries of power. But Earth was not finished. The first strike had only been the beginning. The second stage of the Annihilation Protocol now came alive. Hidden weapons platforms across the solar system powered up, releasing energy so great that sensors across the galaxy recorded it. Gigantic cannons, buried inside asteroids, fired beams that cut across light minutes of space, striking ships that thought they had escaped. Human fleets spread outward, chasing the broken armada, ensuring none would return to tell the Council that Earth had been weak. Panic rippled through the galaxy. For centuries, the Council had been unchallenged. No species had dared defy their commands. Now a young world, once dismissed as reckless and arrogant, had crushed the greatest fleet the Council could send. In the Council chamber, silence replaced chaos. Delegates stared at the glowing reports, their faces pale. The ruling voice trembled with anger, but underneath it fear had taken root. "This cannot be," it whispered. But it was. On Earth, people watched the battle unfold through filtered transmissions. They saw their ships rise, saw the Council burn, and for the first time, they understood that humanity was no longer small. They were no longer the newcomers begging for a seat at the table. They were something else now. The defense commander, standing before his fleet, gave the order that would shake the galaxy. "Activate Phase 2. Let them see that this war will not end with victory alone. It will end with memory. They will never forget what happens when Earth is betrayed." Signals spread across the human networks. Codes unlocked. Weapons the galaxy had never dreamed of awoke from their slumber, and as the stars flickered with the light of shattered fleets, the galaxy realized the truth. This was not wrath born of pride. This was wrath born of memory, of vengeance, of unity forged in blood. The Council had tried to silence humanity. Instead, they had unleashed it, and the Annihilation Protocol had only just begun. The wreckage of the Council's grand fleet still drifted through the stars, burning silently in the dark. Thousands of ships had been reduced to twisted metal, their fragments scattering like dust across the void. To the Council, it had been unthinkable. To humanity, it had only been the beginning. On Earth, the red lights of hidden command centers glowed brighter. The Annihilation Protocol had entered its final stage. Systems that had slept for decades came alive. Vaults opened. Codes long sealed under layers of security were unlocked by trembling hands. Humanity had chosen its path, and there would be no return. The defense commander stood before a wall of screens. Each screen showed fleets moving, weapons activating, targets being marked. His voice carried across every channel. "The Council thought us weak. They thought killing one man would silence us. Now they will learn. Now the galaxy will remember. And with that, Earth's fury was unleashed. From hidden stations beyond Pluto, colossal warheads launched. They were not simple bombs, but weapons built to shatter entire worlds. Their cores glowed with unnatural light, energy twisting and bending around them. They raced through the void at impossible speed, each one carrying enough power to erase civilizations. The Council's outlying colonies were the first to feel it. Planets that had stood for centuries crumbled in moments. Oceans boiled, skies burned, continents split apart. Cities turned to glass. In the space of minutes, entire species lost their homes, their histories, their pride. Survivors sent desperate cries for help, but no help came. Humanity's fleets had already surrounded them, cutting off escape. On alien homeworlds, panic spread. Families fled into the wilderness. Leaders begged for mercy. Temples and palaces filled with prayers to ancient gods. But the gods did not answer. Only humanity did, and humanity spoke in fire. The Council tried to rally. They ordered more fleets to gather, more armies to rise. But fear had already broken them. Many species refused to send ships. Others secretly surrendered, hoping to be spared. Allies turned against each other, blaming one another for supporting the Envoy's execution. The unity of the Council, once unshakable, shattered like glass. In one chamber, a delegate whispered with trembling voice, "We thought they wanted power, but they wanted memory. They want us to never forget they were right." Humanity was not only destroying fleets and planets, they were carving a story into the stars, a story no one would dare erase. The final act of the Annihilation Protocol came in silence. In the void above the Council's core world, a single human warship arrived. It was not the largest, nor the most armed, but it carried a weapon none had seen before. The Council gathered in panic. Defenses lit the skies, shields layered the planet, fleets ringed the atmosphere. Every weapon pointed upward. They were ready to unleash everything. The human ship did not fire immediately. Instead, it broadcast one message across every channel in the galaxy. It was the face of the defense commander. His voice was steady, calm, without anger, without mercy. "You executed our envoy. You murdered our voice. You thought Earth would kneel. Now you understand. Humanity kneels to no one. This is the price of your arrogance." And then the weapon fired. It was not fire, not missiles, not energy beams. It was silence. Impulse of invisible force swept outward. Every alien fleet in orbit froze. Their engines died. Their weapons shut down. Their shields flickered out. In seconds, ships that had once stood proud hung powerless in the void. Then the pulse struck the planet. It did not shatter continents. It did not burn oceans. It simply erased power. Cities went dark. Towers collapsed. Machines fell silent. The core world of the Council, once glowing with light and life, turned into a silent grave. Humanity did not destroy it completely. They left it broken, humiliated, stripped of strength. Not for mercy, but for memory. Across the galaxy, silence followed. No one dared to speak. No one dared to resist. The Council, which had ruled for centuries, was broken. And above their broken capital, the human ship drifted, a shadow of steel against the stars. On Earth, people watched in awe. They had suffered, they had bled, but now they had risen higher than any dream. The Envoy's final words echoed across their hearts. Humanity will remember. And indeed, they did. But it was not only humanity that remembered. Every alien world, every species, every child born under another sun would grow up knowing the same truth. Earth was not to be silenced. Earth was not to be ignored. The Council had executed one man, believing they had ended a threat. Instead, they had awakened a force beyond their control. And now the galaxy belonged to humanity. The Annihilation Protocol was complete.